Under the burning sun of a remote desert training ground, the air shimmered with heatwaves and tension. Dust rose with every step of the exhausted recruits, their boots dragging as if they carried boulders. Among them was a young woman, silent, steady, carrying her rifle like it was an extension of her arm. She had been wounded days earlier, a jagged scar hidden beneath her sleeve, but she refused to speak of it. Not a word escaped her lips, not even a whisper of pain. Her silence earned her the nickname, the Wordless One, from the men, many of whom doubted she even belonged there. The Navy SEAL candidates weren't used to women surviving this far in training, and certainly not one who carried herself with such unshakable resolve. Her wound should have ended her journey, but instead it became the mark of something greater. The instructors pushed them to breaking point, forced marches through knee-deep mud, swimming drills in ice-cold waters, endless push-ups on blistering asphalt, and nights where sleep was nothing more than a rumor. Each test broke bodies and spirits. Some men rang the bell and quit. She never did. She spoke nothing, but her silence spoke more than shouts ever could. The others whispered that maybe she was stubborn, maybe reckless. But there was something in her eyes, focused, fierce, untouchable, that silenced doubts when words could not. One night, under a black sky dotted with 1,000 stars, the recruits were ordered to carry out a simulated rescue mission. Weighted dummies, each the size of a full-grown man, had to be dragged through sand, lifted over barriers, and carried across uneven terrain. Men cursed, grunted, some collapsed under the weight. She moved like a shadow, quiet but unrelenting, dragging her dummy without complaint. Her wounded arm trembled, muscles screaming, but her face remained a mask of calm determination. Every time the instructors turned their gaze, they expected to see her falter, but she never gave them the satisfaction. Then came the ambush drill, explosions echoing through the night, flares painting the desert in red and gold. Candidates dropped to the ground, some frozen in confusion, others scrambling through the chaos. She moved with precision, crawling, rolling, dragging her rifle, her breath steady despite the storm around her. When the mock casualty fell at her feet, a fellow trainee pretending to be hit, she didn't hesitate. She shouldered his weight despite her own injuries, carrying him through the smoke. Her boots tore through sand, her uniform drenched in sweat, but her pace never slowed. When she finally lowered the man to safety, even the instructors, hardened and merciless, paused. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was mastery. Rumors spread quickly among the recruits. Who was she? Where had she trained before this? How could someone endure so much without breaking, without uttering even a groan of complaint? It wasn't until one brutal dawn, when their bodies were pushed beyond exhaustion, that the truth emerged. A medic, a Navy SEAL himself, was assigned to inspect injuries after a punishing log-carrying exercise. When he reached her, he demanded she speak. She didn't. Instead, she extended her arm. With a sharp motion, she tore away the bandage that had been wrapped so discreetly. Gasps rose from the men around her. The wound was raw, deep, angry, but she had trained and worked with it for days without letting anyone know. The medic's eyes narrowed, then widened in something close to respect. He didn't just see a wounded trainee, he saw the scars of years of preparation. Slowly, he began to speak, revealing what no one knew. She had trained under special conditions long before stepping into this crucible. Not only had she endured survival courses tougher than most men ever faced, but she had trained with medics themselves, learning to push her body past the edge, to function under pain, to compartmentalize suffering until it became fuel. The SEAL medic explained that her silence wasn't defiance, it was discipline, something instilled in her from her training, something that allowed her to endure silently where others would cry out and break. The recruits looked at her differently after that moment. They no longer saw a woman out of place, or a wounded candidate hiding weakness, they saw a warrior whose strength went beyond words. She still said nothing, but her every step, every lift, every crawl screamed louder than any battle cry. When others stumbled, she steadied them. When exhaustion crushed their lungs, her presence gave them strength. She became the quiet shadow they followed, the wordless leader who needed no speeches to inspire. As the weeks dragged into months, the training only grew harder, drown-proofing drills in freezing water, carrying boats overhead until spines ached, nights in which instructors drowned them in orders and punishments. Many left. She never did. Her silence remained, her wound healed, but her legend grew. And when the time came for final selection, when the last few recruits stood battered and hollow-eyed before the instructors, the medic who had once revealed her secret training stepped forward. He looked at her, then at the others. "Some of you shouted your strength," he said, "but strength that shouts fades." Her strength never needed words. It lived in silence, in scars, in willpower you cannot measure. The desert wind carried his words, and the recruits knew that they had witnessed something rare. She had entered as an outsider, doubted and dismissed. She emerged as proof that courage doesn't always roar, it endures, it bleeds, it fights, and it inspires without sound. She was the wounded and wordless warrior who amazed everyone, not because she told her story, but because she lived it.